A lot of spiritual paths teach us to transcend our bodies, right? To see things like our race, our gender, our sexuality as illusions we need to get past. But if that's true, why do these so-called illusions cause so much real, tangible pain in the world? Today, we're diving into a different way of thinking, a path laid out by Zenju Earthlyn Manuel. She argues that our bodies aren't obstacles to overcome, but are actually the very gateway to our awakening.
So, this is the core question Manuel puts right in front of us. It's a real paradox. If our identities are just constructs, why do they generate such powerful suffering? This isn't some abstract philosophical puzzle. It's about the very real tension, the grief, and the rage we see and feel every day. It really forces us to stop dismissing these parts of ourselves and instead look at our lived experiences with fresh eyes.
So, we're often presented with two very different spiritual maps. The one most of us know is the path of transcendence. It tells us to see past our physical selves, to treat our identity as an illusion we need to conquer. But Manuel proposes something else entirely, the path of tenderness. And this flips that whole idea on its head. On this path, our body isn't a distraction. It is the path. Our unique identity is the very ground where awakening happens.
To really get this, we need to understand where it comes from. See, this isn't just an abstract philosophy. It was forged in a deeply personal fire, a journey that kicked off with a profound, unnamed suffering and a desperate hunt for some kind of relief. And this is the raw starting point. It's not a theory, it's a feeling. Manuel first came to Buddhist practice because she was carrying this deep internal pain. It was a kind of suffering that came from isolation, from how her body, her race, her gender, her sexuality was constantly being seen and judged by the world around her. So she enters these spiritual spaces hoping for wholeness, but what she finds is this incredibly frustrating contradiction. The teachings talked about awakening right here, right now, but the very topics causing her pain, race, gender, were met with this polite but really tense silence. The unspoken rule was to just transcend it all, which of course just made the suffering feel even more isolating.
And that experience is what leads to the core insight of her work. She starts to wonder, what if, instead of avoiding the painful parts of her identity, what if she walked directly into them? This is the moment where the entire spiritual approach to suffering gets turned completely upside down.
And here it is, the radical shift. The social struggles we face aren't distractions from the spiritual path, they are the spiritual path. Those fires of racism and sexism, they aren't just obstacles to get around. Manuel argues they are, in fact, the widest gateways to enlightenment if we can just find the courage to walk right through them. And that courage leads to what she calls complete tenderness. But it's probably not what you're thinking. This isn't about being soft or passive. It's a powerful, liberated state that can actually come directly out of rage. It's the kind of freedom from hatred that can only arise when we fully, and I mean fully, acknowledge our deepest wounds instead of trying to spiritually bypass them. Okay, but how does this actually work, right? How can we hold on to our unique, sometimes painful identities and still feel that sense of universal oneness that so many of us are searching for? Well, the answer is found in some beautiful ancient philosophy.
Zen master Sekitoki Sen gives us this incredible metaphor. A tree, the trunk and every single branch share the exact same essence, the same life force. And yet each branch is totally unique, with its own speech, its own way of being. Our identities are the branches, distinct and individual, while our shared humanity is the trunk. One doesn't cancel out the other. They depend on each other.
And another master, Dongshan Liangjie, takes this even deeper. Picture it, a silver bowl filled with snow and a white heron in the moonlight. From a distance, they might look pretty similar, but they are fundamentally, beautifully distinct. This is the nature of true oneness. It's not about everything melting into a big blurry soup. It's a recognition of all these unique forms existing together in harmony.
So the big takeaway here is really profound. Spiritual oneness isn't about erasing our differences. It's the opposite. It's the understanding that all of our diverse, unique forms are held within one vast, interconnected whole. We don't have to choose between our individuality and our connection to everything else. We are always and already both. So how do we actually practice this? How do we take these big, beautiful ideas and use them to build more inclusive, more healing communities in our own lives?
Well, the path forward really involves 3 key actions. First, we have to acknowledge lived experience. We can't use the idea of oneness to shut down difficult conversations. Second, we have to focus on building real, authentic friendships before we can ever claim allyship. And third, we have to support the creation of what are called cultural sanctuaries, safe spaces where specific communities can heal.
So what exactly are these cultural sanctuaries? The concept is so important. They are basically spaces where groups with shared historical wounds, like people of color or queer communities, can come together to heal on their own terms. And this is crucial. Their purpose is healing and support, not exclusion or superiority. Think of them like different parts of a garden, giving different plants the specific soil and sunlight they need to truly thrive.
You know, when you get right down to it, this entire practice boils down to one simple, powerful act: acknowledgement. It's like a heartfelt, embodied inner bow to life, exactly as it is in all of its messy, beautiful forms. It's about really seeing other people, not just their faces, but their lives. And it's about looking at our own experience, our own bodies, with that exact same honor and recognition.
So the way of tenderness isn't a path of erasure. It doesn't ask us to become invisible or to shed our identities. Instead, it invites us to see our visible, embodied selves with all their history, all their pain, and all their beauty as the most potent key we have for spiritual liberation. This is an awakening not in spite of our bodies, but through our full humanity.
And we'll end with a really provocative question from the book, one that captures the urgency of this entire practice. In a world that is so full of conflict and hatred, tenderness isn't some passive retreat. It is a courageous, powerful, and absolutely necessary response. When faced with war, both within ourselves and out in the world, how can we possibly afford not to be tender?